My name is Doug Wright and I'm a McDonald's franchisee. People often ask me why I became a franchisee. Honestly, when I was a young man, I was expected to be a solicitor or a business person. However, from a young age, sport was very, very important to me. I was adopted by two beautiful teachers whose education was absolutely everything. So you can imagine, when I became the proud owner of one O-level out of 10, my parents were rather disappointed, shall we say. However, my recovery strategy gets worse. So when my parents were pretty disappointed, I was able to say, I have got a job at a local hamburger restaurant. Nobody had ever known of it. It was back in 1981. I loved it because it looks like the Fonz's Diner, for those of you who are old enough to remember it. And the other standout point was there was no cutlery. So I got a job. I was actually hired as the cleaner at McDonald's, but I thought that might be one stage too far for my parents back in 1981, as I was trying to get over the 1 O-level out of 10. So I went home and said I got a job as an operative on 93 pence an hour. And as soon as I joined McDonald's, I loved it. I should say that I was pretty much unemployable. I had no life skills. It was always somebody else's fault if the bus was late or my uniform wasn't ironed. My bedroom was a shocker. But I guess Douglas Wright's life bulb moment was getting this job. And yes, it was right at the bottom on 93 pence an hour, but I loved it. From day one, I absolutely loved it. And very quickly, I started to progress within McDonald's, and I got up to staff trainer, and then someone actually had the belief in me and made me a shift leader, which was just, for me, it was wonderful to show my parents that I was doing something and I was actually good at something apart from playing cricket. So McDonald's started to transform my life. And then I had a very proud moment in 1986, sort of 5 years into my McJourney, where I became the youngest ever restaurant manager. So my life was totally complete and I felt fabulous. However, something was to define my life, that on Friday, the 13th of June, I had a car crash. And in true Doug style, I did it spectacularly. And ended up in hospital for many, many months and broke my neck here. Was partially paralyzed from the neck downwards for 3 months. And I suppose what kind of really broke me was that I wasn't expected to walk again. But I used to lay there and looking at the ceiling for 3 months is an awful long time. And I think when you look back, it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. I felt sadder that my mum was sleeping on the floor because she had no money for a hotel and her golden child was injured. You know, she couldn't have children herself. She adopted me when I was a week old. So for her, for this to happen was pretty awful. So I lay there, I did recover, and I kind of realized at that point that if I recovered enough, that I was going to try and repay my debt to the hospital, to the NHS, by doing something special. For the next couple of years, I started to recover, had a lot of physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and I got back to working for McDonald's and moved to Sutton Coldfield. They created a role for me in customer services. So I've been in Sutton Coldfield ever since, which was wonderful to come over to the Midlands. And I had various jobs at McDonald's. I think, truthfully, a lot of them were created for me as I recovered. And sort of come the end of the 1990s, I'd started to really recover, got my mojo back, was moving pretty well. And for some mad idea, I thought, I've gone through all this, I want to become a business owner. So I applied in 2001 and I got through. I had the grand sum of £612 and I found a bank that were prepared to back me and run with me. So I opened my first restaurant in Lichfield city centre in October 2002. And there I was, the dream had come to fruition. However, I found being a business owner was incredibly tough. Loved it, but whilst you were the owner, it really was owner and operator. So at the time we had 34 employees and we had turnover of £1,002,002. I'm not sure the relevance of the £2, but it was £1,002,002, as I proudly say. And in our first year, I have never, ever in my life worked so hard. And we ended up making a profit of £5,024. So becoming a business owner is so tough, but I wouldn't have changed anything. The dream was to own 2 McDonald's franchise restaurants, and 5 years on, we opened our second restaurant. And it was just wonderful. It was in a place north of Sutton Coldfield, a place called Bassett's Pole. So we now had 2 restaurants. I think we had 70 employees, and I felt life couldn't get any better. So over the next few years, we realized that it wasn't, or particularly I realized that it wasn't enough just to run a good business. That as a business owner, it was very, very important that as we became more successful, that we contributed to the community. And so from around 2005, worked very, very hard on what I would best categorize as community credentials. So making sure that, I suppose in summary, you'd use business success as a force for good to help and influence others less fortunate. And that was pretty much my sort of DNA. What I wanted to do was to make sure where I live, where I work, the communities where we operated restaurants, that we genuinely cared about people. So in 2006, 2007, we started to buy a couple more restaurants. And then we heard about this wonderful place that was going to be opened in the centre of Birmingham called Ronald McDonald House Charities, which was started in America, and in essence was going to be a home away from home. Very, very tough place because no one ever saves up for their child being ill. No one ever knows when they're going to need the help of a charity. So I got involved. I was pretty useless, but very keen. In fact, super keen fundraiser. And we raised the money and we opened the Ronald McDonald House, which for those who don't know it, it looks like a big hotel, but it is a home away from home. And it's to support the parents, the siblings of children who are very, very poorly. In our case, it was children at the Birmingham Children's Hospital. So we opened it. So eventually I went from fundraiser and became the chairman. And that was a really, really special moment for me. We have typically around 1,200 families stay there a year. We have now been open for 15 years. And we've just celebrated having our 15,000th family stay with us. So, for me, that was a monstrously special moment. Fast forward to 2024, we now have, or I say I, when everything is good, I own and operate 26 McDonald's restaurants and have almost 3,000 staff. So that sounds a big responsibility, but it certainly isn't a responsibility, it's a true pleasure. So that is my brief journey since 1981, 43 years later, to 2024.